what's going on, everybody? It's Anthony Russo from #Be the Change. Truth will set you free in blunt force discussion. This is an episode of Blunt Force Logic. I've been wanting to do this for a couple days. I know, I don't know if you know Dr. Zubin is, if anybody follows ZDogg. One of our followers, Misty in the very beginning, told me to watch ZDogg because she was like, this guy gets it. And then over time, we both agreed that he is just a gigantic shill for Big Pharma. He kept playing the middle ground. He'd be soft and he'd say he's taking a risk and saying these different things. And he created a 20-minute video that I watched the other day. I don't know how it came across my page, called The Great Resignation, a woe is me for the medical field, which I do feel, because I interviewed people that talked about the burnout and how hard it is, and for nurses, doctors, etc. This video, however, made me so sick to my stomach that I had to make a video showing it. So I'm going to literally go through it, and I'm going to stop in different places. It is a 20-minute video. I will do my little insertions as I go. Honestly, I watched it once. I knew there's a bunch to say. I didn't write anything down. So I'm going to essentially live play it and react. If you guys could do me a favor, share this video out. And if you guys do follow ZDogg, let's have a chat. Let's have a share it. I would love for as many people to see it, so that maybe Mr. ZDoggMD would be willing to actually have a conversation with somebody that is not a doctor. Because in the past, I've commented on a lot of his videos, and I wanted to have the discussion, but his followers were very clear that why would he waste his time with somebody that does not have a medical degree, even though to this point I have been right far more than Dr. ZDogg. So let's go ahead and get it started. I'm going to bring it up on the screen right now. For those of you guys watching, let me know where you're from. I'll poke in, poke out, show some comments, etc. Thank you, Rose, for sharing from Illinois. And if there's reactions that you agree with, tell me why you agree and disagree with me. That's fine. Let's have a conversation, because this one was hard for me. This one was literally hard. So let's go ahead and start playing. And there's not everything I disagree with, but just there is some pansy ass friggin' statements. What's going on, Brenda from Wisconsin? Let's go. Tell me you can hear it once I start it.
Hey everyone, Dr. Z. So there's been a lot of talk in the press lately about the Great Resignation. Millions of people quitting their jobs, and in healthcare, this is particularly pronounced. Now, why would that be? Why would nurses, doctors, pharmacists, housekeepers, why would they quit when, for many of them, they were called to this profession? It was a deeper calling. It was about helping other people and living their authentic truth. So why would they quit? You know, what's interesting about this is it's not like this is new. Healthcare sucked for many people before COVID.
Agreed.
This was something 100%. We talked about on this show quite a bit. We talked about moral injury, this idea that we call healthcare workers burned out because it's an easy way to blame a victim, right? It's an easy way to say you're not strong enough, you're not resilient enough, and you couldn't hack what's a really hard job. So maybe you should meditate. Maybe you should go get some lavender essential oils. Maybe you should get a massage, take a little you time. Let's do a little corporate wellness stuff. We'll hire a consultant. We'll hire a corporate wellness officer. We'll do these kind of things that will, help with your resilience. And I think what people realized very quickly when they introspected is that they were miserable. There's a deep, 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 deep suffering that was happening. And it's many could not.
I have to be clear. The reason I kept watching is because I felt the beginning. I understood what he was talking about. I had talked to enough healthcare professionals. And yes, like Barbie says on the bottom, teachers. I know a lot of people that went through this. So I was listening and engaging, and I knew that this started before COVID. So I was like, oh, maybe he's changed his tune. It's been a couple months. Let me see what he's got. So again, he caught me in the beginning, and this is why I started to listen.
Put their finger on what it was, but they were miserable.
I got to bring this up. So Missy, you're the person that had me start watching him. So yeah, I referenced you in the very beginning, and come to this point, people that actually truly listen to me have gone to my side, and even sometimes further. Missy, perfect example in the healthcare profession, that started doing her own research. and realizing that what the doctors were being told is recommendation based, that is a paid for recommendation. This isn't their own beliefs, because they have just been taught and told. And I don't think it's necessarily nefarious. I think people like ZDogg have gotten to the point where it's nefarious, especially at the end of this video, by the end of this video. But I do think most of it is you're trained to listen to the recommendations and trust them. But thank you, Misty, for being kind of my inspiration behind these videos with ZDogg.
For many, they felt trapped in a job by loans, by expectations, by social pressure, by identity issues. Imagine you trained most of your adult life to do some medical thing, whether you're a doctor, a nurse, a pharmacist, whatever it is, physical therapist, occupational therapist, dietitian, and you're miserable. You're absolutely unhappy. You're emotionally detached. You feel completely unaccomplished. You feel like an imposter doing what you're doing. You're worried you're going to hurt somebody. Maybe you're abusing substances. Maybe you're clinically depressed, but you're scared to talk about that because you have to disclose that on your license renewal or to get your hospital privileges.
Yeah.
You feel like you're treating a computer screen instead of the patient in front of you, and you didn't go to school and sacrifice your 20s to do that. You work for an organization.
That is a huge point. They can't, and I've had other interviews, they can't get the help they need because if they do, their license is affected. So you have people that are going through burnout. He's talking pre-COVID. This is post-COVID, and during COVID as well. You can't talk about your substance abuse problems because then you won't be able to actually do your job that you've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is a problem that it's similar to the military in that sense. You have to be very careful what you do, what you say. Again, this is why in the first 3 minutes, I was hook, line, and sinker listening to
organization that's owned by a private equity firm whose bottom line is the bottom line, not patients, not you. You are a resource in an assembly line of Health 2.0, where the product is a patient that got through the system and they could bill for. You are paid, and your system is paid to do things to people, not to do things for people. You feel expendable. You've been told you're expendable. The leadership of your organization has told you that if you quit, you will never find work that is as good as this, that has the benefits and the privileges, and you'll be blacklisted. So don't you dare try to leave. You're morally conflicted because you know the right thing for that patient in front of you is for you to spend that extra 5 minutes getting to understand their hopes, dreams, and fears, understand why they're resistant to getting a vaccine or whatever it is, instead of having to chart in front of the patient in order to get through your day so you're not cutting into pajama time with your kids. And you're saddled with all this debt. So you're afraid that if you leave, you'll lose your identity and you'll lose your livelihood and you won't be able to support yourself or your family. Your family, by the way, who's already miserable because you're miserable and because you can't be present with them because of this distraction of mind that has you back at work even when you're at home. That was before COVID. For many, 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 many people. Now, I was one of them. Now, what happens during COVID? You guys remember that I did a video in the beginning of the pandemic saying there will be a reckoning. We will never forget what happened in the early days when there was no PPE and where was the leadership, and we were asked to risk lives, our lives, the lives of our family during a pandemic, and the public was shitting on us, afraid to go near some.
Okay, this is where I got to stop. If this is the first part where I was like, screw, what? You guys were deemed heroes from day one. I mean, go ahead and put in the comments if you disagree with me, but I had never heard anybody going, I can't get anywhere near a medical professional. There was people going like, what's going on with this disease? Like, are they going to bring it home or whatever? And they were separating from their families. That's rough. But he just explained why there is such a calling in the medical profession for times such as these. So this whole part started to divert from the whole concept. I don't, this is where it started to go haywire. This is where you've got ZDogg himself making videos with healthcare professionals. And this was in the first couple months of the pandemic. And even if you go to the first month, nobody was shitting on you. So now you started this victim card, I think, for views. And maybe that, I mean, I'm trying to get views by using this ridiculous video that started out for the first 5 minutes. Pretty damn good. But this is where I started to question the motives of this video.
Somebody in scrubs ostracizing us at gas stations because we were wearing scrubs because they were afraid of this disease.
Where?
And then, you know, leadership puts up a sign, heroes work here. Well, that got better. They got some PPE. Then what happens? Wave after wave after surge, which if you go on social media, there are people denying that it even happened.
I don't know.
You're going every day risking your life.
Clearly referring to those talking about the fact that the death numbers don't quite match the comorbidities, which he goes on to mention, by the way. So I don't think there's anybody saying it didn't exist. I think we're saying that it was so mismanaged and we were not given the right things to treat people. We were given remdesivir instead of therapeutics. Like there was errors made. And then in the numbers, which have been proven to be a little sketchy when 90+% of the deaths are traced to people with 4 or more comorbidities. I think that's a fair assessment. Nobody is like a Holocaust denier on the COVID. They're denying the accuracy of the mainstream media reporting. But I see where you're going, Z, because you're starting to paint a very one-sided picture. Honestly, Casey, all I could think of was that word. Whenever I hear him on certain things, especially like this is beta, it gets worse because he actually talks about parking spaces. Yeah, that's coming. It is. And it is fantastic.
Taking care of patients who are dying, for which at those stages of illness, we have nothing. We have nothing we can do. Prone to patients dying in the ICU, most of them elderly, most of them with comorbidities, dying alone.
As I said,
and we are tasked with enforcing the hospital rule that a patient must die.
Again, I keep stopping on you're tasked with the hospital rule. And you'll get into who was heroes and who those that were heroes that said, screw that, I'm allowing their family members in to see them, because that did happen. This is the point where you should have taken that medical license that you talked about, why you got into medicine for the patient, and broken the fucking rules. Pardon my French. This was your chance to truly be a hero, and most of them simped out because of the rules in place. You should have spoken up. People with a voice like you should have spoken up, and you did months later. I remember you saying this was cruel, but it's too late then. People that didn't have a medical degree, many like me, said this is the counterproductive, just like education, kids on tablets, and look at where our education is now. And now they're going, whoops.
Alone, even though it feels in every way morally, ethically,
then you
psychologically wrong, spiritually wrong, but we're the arbiters of that.
Instead, you called
then we're asked to do overtime
to
shifts.
Escort people out of buildings.
Then we're asked to continue to suck it up and give in pizza slices. Pharmacists are asked to vaccinate the entire population and give in pizza while continuing to work under metrics, oppressive metrics at places like CVS and Walgreens. And then they get yelled at by patients because they had to wait. Patients will come to the ICU with COVID, having declined vaccination, and continue to ask for ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and be so
misled. So now you're going back to the things that, might I add, there are still peer-reviewed studies going on that you ignore, Dr. Z, that do actually show in the early stages to prevent later hospitalizations at a certain level. And you're still saying, how dare these people come in unvaccinated? You, sir, are explaining how you are misusing your medical degree. You are expecting those without mentioning that this was an experimental shot. You are still saying that they were misled. And now you go soft on them here. You go soft and say, but they know not what they do.
Misled by the misinformation online and by ideology and so on. Misled. With good intent. They're good people.
Okay. Oh, they're good people.
And then
but they're
healthcare
wrong.
workers have to deal with that when they know that to some degree,
what about the healthcare workers that agree with us?
Now, you add all of this to the fact that when people do quit, they're replaced by traveling nurses, say, who make 2 to 3x what the people who stayed are making, and they have to work side by side. Now, in the setting of all this,
that's unfortunate.
In the setting of all this, and it's worse. It's worse than this. It gets worse and worse and worse.
It gets worse and worse and worse.
In the setting of all this, in many places, there's great leadership. In other places, leadership has its head so far up its own ass, it can't even acknowledge the suffering of these frontline heroes. They use platitudes and garbage talk, and then they do the opposite. So instead of actually giving them raises, and I know it's economically hard, or some other support, the tools, the resources, the autonomy to do their job. They don't burn out because the work is hard. They burn out because they can't do the work they know is necessary to help you, the patient.
Because they were misled.
That's why they burn out, because they're morally injured. Burnout is the end stage. It's the dialysis of chronic disease, which is moral injury. Death by 1,000 paper cuts. And then, and this is why I'm doing this video today, because something interesting happened this morning. My wife is a Stanford faculty.
Here it gets good.
She's a radiologist at Stanford. I was at Stanford for about a decade.
And Stanford makes sense.
Stanford has this really good perk for their staff and faculty, which is there's this beautiful gym. There's several gyms. There's one here down the road. It's not on the main campus. And faculty and their spouses as one of the benefits of employment. So in other words, shave a little off the wages, you get this. They get to access this facility for free.
Do you know that it was less on the wages?
Remember, who built this facility? The work of these people, seeing patients every day, teaching students as university professors. So we have this wonderful perk. Now, my wife got me a membership. So I go in the morning and I usually exercise for an hour or two. And it's where I catch up on reading, learning,
He's about to sound like an angry
and getting
Twitter
into
employee,
a very
right now,
meditative state. I find the place
like
a church. So the beautiful thing is, although Stanford charges its staff and faculty for parking, they don't charge for going to the gym, because guess what? If you're going to promote wellness, make it easy. Design a system so that people will get there easily without any obstruction. It's hard enough to get to the gym. So they had, I don't know, 10 or 15 spots with signs that says for gym parking, 90 minutes, free. That was wonderful. So that's where I park. Today I drove up and I parked there and I noticed that the sign had changed. It said C permit. Now a C permit costs $70 a month for faculty. So I looked at this and said, cheap, and I noticed the whole parking lot has been empty the whole time. I mean, it's not like it's full. This is not patient parking. This is all staff. So it's a totally empty parking lot across the street from the gym. So I walked in the gym and the staff said, I said, hey, what happened to the parking? And the staff of the gym said, your guess is as good as ours. Overnight, they went in, changed all the signs and made it paid. It now costs money. And all of our, clients here are just outraged. And I was like, what? They didn't even tell you guys? I'm like, well, the frontline people didn't hear about it. So I said, oh, this is interesting. A hospital employee walked in, was like, hey, what happened to the parking? And they said, oh, they just changed it. And you could see on this person's face, here I am working for this hospital through COVID, giving everything. And they can't even give me free parking for a gym to make myself better, more resilient, which is what they keep talking about. They can't even do that. This is our leadership that will talk out of one end of their mouth about wellness. And they take our fucking parking away. You know, it's like an Office Space where they take his stapler and it's the final paper cut of 1,000 that breaks the camel's back.
Maybe, just maybe, you should have started seeing the writing on the wall before it got to the parking spaces, which they didn't take away your gym membership, by the way. They took away your parking spaces. I'm with you. Frustrating, bullshit, cool across the board. But this is what made you make a video of the Great Resignation. We'll finish. There's about 8 minutes left. You talk about, how about when your coworkers who didn't believe the same way as you did with the vaccine got fired and lost their jobs, and you weren't part of the solution, you're part of the problem because you said they're technically misinformed. But your issue is that now, as a husband of a faculty member, what made you see the bigger picture is your parking spaces. Wow. Maybe you should have grown a fucking pair a little earlier. Maybe that would have not led to you losing your parking space.
I could feel for this guy. What is wrong with us when we manage instead of lead? We need to overthrow this entire system. We deserve better. A system that's self-governed. Why shouldn't a housekeeper have a say in the governance of the organization and have autonomy over his or her own job? The tools, meaning technology, to do our job. The resources, meaning team, to do our job. The autonomy, meaning the flexibility to do what we know is right with support. We need leaders that will point us to that and allow us to lead in our own way. And part of that is turning inward and looking at our own situation and going, no, this is not me. So I've had people reach out in leadership saying, Zubin, can you start talking about how we might retain employees better because people are leaving and our staffing.
Yeah, Missy, I have to be honest. Like, I get it. It is the straw that broke the camel's back. That is the point. I get it. It's an insignificant thing seeming, but it is. I trust me. When it comes to little things, I get the frustration over little things. I feel for that, but I think this whole acting that he's doing here, while still, which you'll hear again in the end, pushing that fact that everybody that is on my side and your side as well is misinformed and ignoring the elephant in the room of the mass amount of healthcare workers that were. He never mentions it. You'll see it by the end. It never mentions this Great Resignation, shortage of staff, doesn't mention the big elephant in the room, and those that were, of course, let go for their
It's worse. It's a vicious cycle because people quit and then it makes it harder on the existing staff, and then it's harder to recruit and so on.
Not taking an experimental jab.
And I said, well, how about this? How about not sucking?
Oh, you're a
because I tell people, man, if they look inwards and this is not their thing and they're miserable and they can't change it, they need to walk. And now's the time to do it. At a time when there's inflation and job pressure and all this other stuff, people are hiring and they can't hire enough people. Hey, now's the time to wake up and go, is this even what I'm supposed to be doing? It's not the Great Resignation, people. It's the Great Awakening. That's what this is.
Just so you know, Mom and I,
it's the Great Awakening.
My mom for almost 25 years.
And we look inside and realize that, no, we're better than this. We're more loving than this. We're more connected than this. We have a purpose in this life, and it's not this. So let's find it. Let's reconnect with it. And that means transforming our organizations by transforming us. It starts right here with us. Otherwise, we get the system that reflects us. reflects our egoic delusion. That's what it is. That's really what it is. So the Great Awakening means it's time to look inwards, and that means leadership needs to look inwards. We need to stop giving lip service to well-being, wellness, burnout, all this other garbage talk. It's well-meaning. There's good intent. Our leaders are good people for the most part.
I disagree.
We're trying to break this into little parts when we're not seeing the whole.
Let's not forget the leadership
right?
is the ones that closed
this.
things.
It begins right here.
And also made the extra 40,000
right here.
for making them COVID
you know,
patients.
Search inside.
Deaths.
Many of you know this is true
this.
already. You just don't know what to do about it. Well, now's the time.
Leadership's garbage.
Maybe it means going to a different organization that respects you. Maybe it means supporting organizations that are health 3.0 minded, meaning team-based, supportive of the team, self-governing, lots of leadership in all levels, non-hierarchy, not a dominator hierarchy like our current business model. Who thought that running medicine as a business model was the right fit for a healing art? When did we think that was okay? Did you know this? Look, it doesn't matter. They will socialize medicine just to solve this problem. And they'll make everything worse because you haven't solved the problem. The problem is our care model is completely antiquated and wrong. And we need a completely transcendently different model, which we've talked about on the show many times, where you're actually paid to do the right thing for patients and the right thing for each other, where you do well financially by doing good, where the moral injury is resolved because there isn't the conflict.
You're talking a big game, but you
self-governing like an organism, self-evolving, really anti-fragile. It gets stronger when you challenge it. Right now, we have a fragile garbage system that would crumble. The minute the pandemic came, the whole thing fell apart.
And the problems.
And then the resiliency of the people actually brought it back together. They white-knuckled their way through it, and they get thanked by taking their giving them parking for free and taking it away. It's one thing to never have it. They were just used to being crapped on. But to give it and then take it away without any notice, like, think how that hospital employee felt. So valued. So there was an...
Think about how all of the frontline heroes felt when they were let go of their jobs and you said nothing. You did say, maybe that's not the right way to handle it. How about using your platform to say this is bullshit? But no, you're doing this about a fucking, pardon me, Nancy, pardon me, I'm sorry. You're doing this about a parking space and saying how could they do... There's people that have been in the profession for decades that were unceremoniously fired from their jobs, and this is your issue.
Article in the Atlantic about the Great Resignation in healthcare, and they talked about an ER doc who she thought she was a lifer in ER and just got so injured during COVID that she finally plucked up the courage despite all the identity. I mean, we doctors, our entire identity is being a doctor. It's like this inner child that we've nurtured and grown all this time. And then you're saying, oh, just walk away from it. How do you do that? Right? But she plucked up the courage and did it. And in the article, she found herself in a pumpkin patch with her kids for Halloween after she left and found herself sobbing. And the reporter asked her, well, why were you sobbing? And she said, I was happy. And I hadn't experienced that in so long. We need to reconnect with who we are and as a system. If you're in leadership, connect with that. Feel it. Feel into it.
This feels so disingenuous.
You kind of know what the right thing to do is, right? We're all pulled in a million ways, a million different directions. And COVID made it a ton worse. Now we've lost the ability to have compassion for people who are afraid of the vaccine.
Oh, here it is.
because of all the information online.
Oh my God. Their own
They're good
information.
people trying to make rational decisions, and we call them anti-vaxxers and we brand them as dumb and all this other stuff. How's that working out?
Listen to that part and listen to how he says, we're branding them dumb. He's not saying they're right. He's saying we need to speak to them differently. We need to have more compassion when we tell them that they're wrong, even though they are not wrong.
For us. How is that working out for convincing them to?
You shouldn't be convincing anybody. And then again, these subliminal messages to get vaccinated or to do the whatever the right thing is. The right thing is the right thing for the individual based on their health, based on a disease that had a less than 2% mortality. And if you use common sense, it's way less than that, because people like me that got sick never got tested to the point where it reached any register. Almost everybody in this country, 330 million people, have had COVID, if not once, but maybe even twice, which brings the actual statistics drastically lower than 1%, drastically. And then if you have very little comorbidities, if any, it's nothing. So the right thing to do is potentially the right thing to do for your body. And as we learn day after day, the issues and the research now being done, maybe these were good decisions to listen to. So maybe at one point, you realize the right thing might not have been what your thing was. And just talking to people differently doesn't mean you've opened your mind to the possibility that you might have been wrong. And if you have, now you're just a paid shill for the machine that is Big Pharma and our broken medical system in this country. Let's continue.
To get vaccinated or to do whatever the right thing is we think the right thing is for them. Not very well, I'll tell you that, because I get the emails. All right. So I'm going to keep talking about this stuff, and it's not going to make me very popular.
This is
no
right
one's
now.
going to hire me to
4 days
speak.
ago.
I don't care. I really
Trust
don't.
me, they're
Because
going to still hire
when I do
you to
talks
speak.
for
Don't play
nurses
the
and
martyr.
doctors and these virtual talks, I'm real with
You
them.
will still get hired. You're
And
still
you know
a
what?
shill for the machine.
A lot of these organizations, if they're if they're any good, they're down with it, because they understand that we need this new anti-fragile way of being in the world, and it starts with us. It does. We can't keep externalizing blame. Like, you can blame that parking spot as the last straw, that's fine, but it's on you if you take that sitting down.
No, it's on you.
Huh? It takes courage. It's really scary.
How about go into the office and go into, say, fight it.
All right, guys. I really love you. I really do. Really, I'm trying to bring this from a place of love. And you see, I get angry, right? Because that's what I feel.
Not really angry.
And it comes through, but then you let it go. But I think we really need to authentically understand how we feel about this and what it means. All right, guys. I love you. Please share the video. We're out.
Okay. I'm going to respond real quick to Missy a couple times. So let's see. I don't know. What does FAHQ mean? I actually don't even know. Literally what he means. I'm basing it on, I watch 1 out of 30 of his videos. He makes a video every day, and it's been months. So I don't know what he means, but based on what he's saying, you have to understand, especially a professional speaker like him, you have to understand that your video has to be all encompassing, even if you get the information out early in the beginning and at the end to confirm what exactly is going on. So with that said, I don't know what he means, but based on what I'm seeing here, I'm responding directly to, oh, got it. Okay. I didn't know that. Saying to us healthcare workers. Okay. You meaning, yeah. Okay. He was talking to them, not me. Got it. I guarantee you he'd be a fun guy to meditate with. I would love to have a conversation with him. I've asked on his page, and I know I'm nobody compared to what he has on his following, but I think him and I would have an interesting conversation. I'm interested to see the show with him and his other co-person, but I hope I earned you guys watching this far. I just wanted to put that out there. This video to me was victim mentality and just his whole surrounding, ignoring the gigantic elephant in the room of the healthcare professionals that truly were shit on because they did not want to take an experimental vaccine. And to those that talk about the movie Died Suddenly, I'm about a quarter of the way through. I know Stu Peters. I've met him before. I know his shows. I know he goes a little off the deep end sometimes. But from what I understand, as people are sharing it with me, it's got 5.5 million views in 2 days. And some people that know people that work in funeral homes that I know that don't typically get too much politics are saying this is facts. Last year, they've never seen these weird blood clots. This isn't just the people that they put together for the show. These are people, mom and pop shops, friends. This is true. Probably true. Maybe I should email. Anyways, he's trying to quit. He's trying to get us quit attaching one another. Yes, he needs to address it. Yeah, I get some of the things he said. And that's why, and Missy, you'll watch the beginning. The first 3 minutes, I was hook, line, and sinker. I was like, this is great. I like where he's going. I believe, I get it. And then it went off the rails. Anyways, guys, before I go, as you can see, with the shirt I wore specifically for this, not a single one of us regrets not taking it. So I'm sure if there's any Z followers that end up watching this, to be like, oh, you're just a Republican grifter trying to sell your gear. But if you do want to support, real quick, you can find that shirt with code AWAKE for 15% off. Go to awakenotwokestore.com. Got hats there, got the shirts, got the Unvaccinated Lives Matter one of my favorites. There is a Black Friday deal for Great American Syndicate, our summit coming up in June. Tickets are only $50 a piece right now. It is in Dallas, Texas. They are $197 tickets. It is in June of next year. Please go check that out. Just go to greatamericansummit.com. It is a Black Friday deal. Please get it now. We're doing a limited amount, and I hope to see you guys in Dallas. And last but not least, I've mentioned this before. I'm probably not able to do the in-person interviews for a little bit, as that was getting quite expensive, but I could use as much help as possible. I'll keep putting content out there, but support the Patreon for Blunt Force Discussion. That's the easiest way to help out. And that is right here. Where is it? There it is. That's the way to help. Thank you guys for joining. I know I had a good little 40 people watch on this one. I had a great conversation with a Tony Robbins coach earlier, a new one, and her mind was blown when I talked about the level of engagement. Some people just don't even know that what dropped starting in January of 2020, and then what happened then after I had one violation in 2021. But she didn't even know that that's what's happening to conservative voices on social media. She was mind boggled to know that, I went from 500,000 down to 100,000, now down to 30,000. So I do the best I can to continue to put out content. Some of you guys don't even get to see it because the algorithm. Let's see. All right, that's it, guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving. God bless. Enjoy the fam bams. Remember, Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, so make it yours. Be thankful. Make a post about why you're thankful. Maybe just one, not like every day. Just do one post. And despite familial political differences, still have a good time. Have fun. Take it easy, guys. God bless. And I'll catch you later.